We're here in San Diego for the 2015 annual meeting, and I'm joined today by Simon Baggs from Incopro and Chris Oldknow from Elipe, and we're about to talk about Europe's digital agenda. Yeah, we're here to talk about the digital agenda. This is part of Europe's 2020 growth strategy. So I think just for those that may not be aware of even Europe 2020, perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about what that is.
Well, in many ways, you can think of it as a brand in itself. In order to address issues of change, the Commission needs to have some sort of compelling narrative on why things have to change, why legislation needs to move forward. And the 2020 agenda is the way that they've framed it. In the past, they've had I-2010 and various other the Lisbon agenda. And so now digital single market is in particular the one that they've been focusing on as a means to engage people to say we need to complete the single market. There are important things that have to change, and this is the way to explain them. And part of it is that clearly digital technologies are driving changes in the market and changes in behavior, and the legislators have to find a way to keep up with that. Actually, when you break down what's in the agenda, several of those things they're not particularly digital at all. You know, the European Union started off as a coal union, a customs union. Turning it into a single market is a project that actually, it's a very easy phrase to say, but it involves an awful lot of consequences, some of which involve giving up sovereignty, which is not a thing that many member states have been as willing to do as the rhetoric would suggest. So it will be a challenge, and that's why they have to create, a story around it.
And some big challenges for business in terms of how they navigate a world where there's quite a lot of change implicated in this process for businesses. Some of that change could be embraced for the good, but it also presents some very significant challenges, particularly for enforcement, which is something that obviously I'm very interested in.
Okay, so can you give us a sort of real-life example of where the consumer is facing, a European consumer is facing a digital border that's preventing him or her from accessing something, how it's impacting the brand owner, and then what it would look like if this thing gets passed in the way that we want it to get passed?
This is about basically access to information that you want to receive. So if you're a Netflix subscriber, one of the biggest brands obviously out there at the moment in the content space, it's a frustration for the legislators in Brussels that they might be, if you like, signed up to Netflix in France for the weekend, and then they go to Brussels for the week and they can't actually access the same service even though they paid for it. And they see that, if you like, as a destruction or a barrier to the idea of the digital single market. The important point is not to lose sight of other elements of the market that are reliant, for example, on a territory-by-territory proposition. So whilst you want to be able to have a portable access to content, you also want to be able to ensure that the film industry in France, for example, still has a relevance. And that relevance comes from an ability to sell your rights to a French buyer for a French territory. And it's much harder to control or to, if you like, gain the investment to make local content if in fact you're talking about a European proposition alone.
Is there a balance? Can we find a middle ground where everyone wins?
I think it's almost certainly not the case that everyone can win.
Yeah.
But I think what brand and copyright owners can do is ensure that they engage in the process, as I said before, to try to achieve the best they can out of it. It's a world that they may not like, but there's a lot that they could get in terms of legislative change in their favour, as long as they recognise the reality. You've got this issue, it's there, and so it's about ensuring that you as a brand and copyright owner get what you can out of legislation over the next few years as it develops forward.
And let's pass it a different way. What about European brands and non-European brands?
The reason to engage as a non-European brand would be this will shape how Europe negotiates trade agreements with your home territory and with other territories around the world. Once they set their rules, and you saw it with data protection in the past, that becomes the way that they the way that they will negotiate, and sets that agenda. So it's very important for non-European brands.
Any final thoughts?
It would be great, I think, really for brand owners to take the initiative, and it would be great if INTA was responsible for engaging in this discussion and helping people to collaborate and share ideas. So, perhaps the next opportunity is for a specific opportunity to get together, talk about how we can actually bring the agenda forward, talk about the issues for brand and content owners, and then deliver something to Brussels, something very practical around the importance of this sector in terms of jobs and growth.
What's happening on the digital agenda and the digital single market is important to you as a company operating in that environment. It will set the agenda for the same discussions that will happen in whatever country you are, because the same issues, the same internet is coming to you and to your politicians. So I would think everyone here has a real stake, both as a citizen and a consumer and as a business person, to look at what's happening and to understand it. Even though the language is often in very much Eurospeak, even though a phrase like digital single market or doesn't, it's hard to know how what does that mean and how do I engage with it. But you have to take a step back and go, I'm an Argentinian company, the internet is coming to me, policymakers will look at what's happened there in Europe, and also I have an opportunity to reach into Europe, and I want a market that that is good for me to operate in.
Chris, Simon, thank you so much. That was incredibly interesting and exciting times ahead.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.